Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
Yes. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the RosterWatch Pick'em Show presented by Underdog Fantasy over there on the right side of the screen. Make sure you scan that QR code. Join Underdog Fantasy today and represent RosterWatch Nation. On the season so far, we are dominating. We're doing a great job on Underdog. 59% win rate through 7 weeks over on RosterWatch. Again, that's over 100 selections we've given you. We're hitting at a 59% clip right now. Personally, this past weekend, I'm 4-1 on the weekend. I hit a Will Reichert, I hit a Johnny Munt, some DeAndre Hopkins, some Jerry Jeudy. It was a hot weekend for myself this weekend. And you can get all these picks every single weekend over on rosterwatch.com. We put up a column. We send out an email. We do a show. We did a show on Friday. I was live with Alex Dunlap in Austin, Texas. We talked about all these picks, why we love them, why we like them, why we I maybe don't like a couple of them, but I loved all mine, and I went 4-1 this weekend. So I'm happy, I'm excited, and I'm ecstatic, and I'm back for Monday night primetime picks. Now, for the primetime, we've only been doing the primetime shows for the last 3 weeks. Today, again, you'll know, is Monday Night Football. We have a couple of big games, the Baltimore Ravens at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game has a 50-point total. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Arizona Cardinals, a 44-point total. So it's Baltimore, Tampa game. We're expecting to have a little more points. Tampa Bay is 3.5-point dogs in this one. 31% of the bets are on Tampa. And let's see what the number is. 30% of the money is on Tampa. For that Charger game, the Chargers are 1-point favorites. It's a 9 p.m. kick, so that's Eastern time there. So another staggered start. I wish it was a little earlier. I wish it was like a 7:30 and 9 o'clock kick and not an 8:15 and 9 o'clock kick. But that one that's out there on the West Coast, Chargers at Cardinals. The Chargers are 1-point favorites in this one. The Chargers are carrying 57% of the bets and 65% of the money. If you want to get on any of that action, you can go over to rosterwatch.com, become a pro or premium member, and dig a little bit deeper if you'd like to get in on that. Also, you can go find our rankings up at rosterwatch.com. Again, become a pro or premium member. I'll pop that QR code up in the top right side of the screen. Right there, right here. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong. Go check that out right now. Otherwise, go on to underdogfantasy.com today. QR code is on the right side of the screen right now. You get a 50% deposit match bonus up to $250. Up to $250 over at underdogfantasy.com today. Go over there, use the promo code ROSTER or RosterWatch and tap in today. I appreciate you guys tapping into the chat already. IP says, I'm up 40 points with Mike Evans left. My opponent has Baker, Zay, Dobbins, and Bucks kicker. Do I win? You're up 40, so you're spotting 40. I don't know what the context of the league is. It's PPR only. Okay, so we'll say tonight, Mike Evans, I mean, he's a little bit banged up, but I think we're going to get classic 16-pointer out of Mike Evans. So that calls you up 56. If you're getting 16, that means Baker's probably throwing a touchdown or two. Let's say Baker goes even with Mike Evans. They each score 16. That means that Zay, Dobbins, and the Bucks kicker each have to have 40 combined. Zay, I'll go 4 points. I'll go Bucks kicker for 6. And that means Dobbins has to get 30. So I think you're in a good spot here. I think you win by 8 is my guess, IP. Thank you for jumping in the chat. I appreciate everybody that does jump in the chat for this show. Let's jump into the picks. That's why you came for. I know we're 4 minutes in. It's a 10-minute, 15-minute show. We're 4 minutes in. Now, let's talk about the picks. I got one selection for each team on Monday Night Football. That's 4 teams. Again, Chargers, Ravens, Bucks, and Cardinals. Let's start out with the lower. I got one lower today, and let's going to start out in Los Angeles here with Justin Herbert. 197.5 passing yards. We're going to go ahead and ride the lower. They have just straight up not been throwing the football entirely that much. The Denver game last week was his season high in pass attempts. 34 pass attempts in that game, 237 passing yards. Do you think that they double up the most pass attempts that they've had on the season? No. The games before that, 26, 20, 18, 27. His passing totals, 144, 130, 125, 179. He's been under in each of those first 4 games. I'm going to go ahead and ride the lower on Justin Herbert of 197.5 passing yards because I do believe that the run is established here with J.K. Dobbins, with Kamani Vidal. You also have to remember that a big chunk of that 237, I think it was a 40 The Kamani Vidal play was like 40 some yards down the sideline and was a reception on a wheel route last week. Let me pull this up here quick. The reception was 38 yards. So technically, you take the 38 yards, hypothetically, this is again all hypothetical here. Take that 38-yard reception from Kamani Vidal off the board that went to Justin Herbert. That brings his number down to 199 last week. And that would be 5 consecutive games sub 200 passing yards. I think Justin Herbert stays under 200 this one. Under 197.5 is the number over there on Underdog. Now, Baltimore. I want to double down on this Andrews thing. Over the weekend on the main show, I brought up Mark Andrews going over 3.5 targets. That number is no longer available, so now it's Monday night. Now we're going north of 2.5 receptions. I do believe Mark Andrews, he's 29 years old. He just turned 29 years old, man. What are we doing here? Like, I know likely started out the season nice and stuff, but I mean, this is Mark Andrews, and this team week by week has gotten better and better and better and better. And them giving us lines like 30 receiving yards or 28 receiving yards that we've gotten the last couple of weeks, or 3.5 targets or 2.5 receptions, I think is just idiotic. The last 2 weeks in games they've needed to score points in, again, that's against Washington, they scored 30. Against Cincinnati, they scored 41. He had 4 receptions on 5 targets, 3 receptions on 4 targets. Now, north of 50 yards in both games. If they're going to give us Mark Andrews numbers and they're going to make them stupid low, take them north, higher than 2.5 receptions for Mark Andrews. That just, I don't really need to explain that one much further. Rachaad White. Everybody knows the situation that's going to happen in Tampa tonight based on what Liam Cohen told us. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay Buccaneers, said each of these 3 running backs, Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving, and Rachaad White, are going to get an opportunity in this game to have a drive, right? And then the hot hand will come out from there. Rachaad White, 14.5 receiving yards is the number tonight on the season. These are his totals. 6 receptions for 75 yards, 5 for 18, 2 for 35, 1 for 5. And then the last game against Atlanta that he played in was on Thursday Night Football a couple weeks ago, 3 for -6, but he was targeted enough. I think Rachaad White's a guy that can do this on any given play. He can go over 14. He's very efficient in the receiving game when he is targeted. So he's hit this number 3 the last 5 games he's played in. I'm going to go ahead and ride with Rachaad White, bouncing back healthy, 14.5 receiving yards, higher than for Rachaad White. Again, if you want to touch the carries, you can. He's been efficient in the rushing game as well. Let's see what the other rushing number is for Rachaad White. I can't remember. I think it was like in the 30s when I checked. 26 rushing yards. 26 rushing yards. You also have an opportunity to go for the rushing plus receiving, which is 45.5. Rushing plus receiving yards, 45.5. Again, he's literally hit this in every game he's played. Not every game he's played, but the last 2. And then the game against Washington, he had 106. Before that, it was 23, 35, 74. Like, I don't know, man. This he's too good of a football player. I understand people that love Bucky Irving. I also understand the Sean Tucker stuff. I watched all 3 of these guys at training camp, and I also watched them give Rachaad White 90% of the opportunities and him look better, bigger, faster than all these guys. Sean Tucker has great burst, which I think is the one thing that gives him the slight upper hand over the other 2 guys. Or if he does break a long run in his drive, we could see him snake a lot of these opportunities. Bucky Irving is just he's good, but he's more of a jag than these other 2 guys, I think, in totality. We'll see what happens tonight, but I do think all these Rachaad White numbers are interesting. 26.5 rushing yards, 45.5 total yards, 7.5 rush attempts. You really just have to lean on, is he going to be the guy that gets opportunity? You're going against a tough Baltimore defense that has given up runs, but I would rather lean into the Rachaad White. 14.5 receiving yards. I'm going higher than. All right, the last one here. We're going to finish up with the Arizona Cardinals. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to play in this game. It sounds like, at least to this point. Zay Jones is going to be back in this game to this point. So the Zay Jones thing should have more hindrance on snaps from Marvin Harrison. I think I just muted and then unmuted. Greg Dortch, on the other hand, has 19 receptions for 174 yards to this point this season. His numbers tonight over at Underdog Fantasy, 2.5 receptions. If you can also find it somewhere with targets, I think the number was like 3, or I think it's 3.5 targets now. It was, I thought 3. Last few games for Greg Dortch on the season: 6, 2, 3, 4, 1 3. The one game that he had one was San Francisco. He had 2 against the Rams. And now this game, again, like I said, we're getting this number at 2.5 receptions for Greg Dortch, which he's literally done in 3 of the last 4 games, in 4 of his 6 games this season. Greg Dortch in the slot, I think, poses an opportunity tonight against the Chargers, as I think they're going to get down against the Chargers. I think Arizona's going to be throwing the football quite often, and Greg Dortch is a guy that Kyler, we've already heard this. Kyler loves him. I'm not sure what the receptions are, the connection is going to be like with Zay right away, but if they're out there taking out Marv and taking out Wilson to put in Zay and I'll do all these things, I just like Greg Dortch to get a couple more opportunities than maybe he normally would. So we're going to go ahead 2.5 receptions north for Greg Dortch, higher than 2.5 receptions. Rachaad White higher than 14.5 receiving yards. Justin Herbert lower than 197.5 passing yards. Mark Andrews higher than 2.5 receptions. If I plug that thing into Underdog right now, I'm putting $10 on it, and I'm going to go ahead and do a standard bet, and that's going to give me $118.69. That's 11.87x your money. You can also flex it. If you want to flex it, that means you get 4 right, you get $71. You get 3 right, you get $17. That means you have a little bit of insurance, I guess you'd say, if you get one wrong. My name is Cody Carpentier. We're at RosterWatch.com. You can go over to UnderdogFantasy.com today. You can click that QR code on the right side of the screen. You can't click it, but you can scan it. Or you can go to UnderdogFantasy.com and use that promo code ROSTER or promo code RosterWatch, and you get a deposit bonus up to $250, a 50% sign-up bonus up to $250. I appreciate you. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Waiver Wire Show. Make sure you click that like button. Make sure you click subscribe, and make sure you stay tuned in and tapped in every damn day